Hey y'all, it's been a while. I won't say a lot of things have changed. Nothing has really changed other than me wanting to get back to the reason why I started my YouTube channel in the first place. I am definitely going to still post my recipes and cooking videos, but honestly, I want to get back to the reason why I started my channel in the first place. As you can see, the title of my channel is The Happily Married Divorced Widow. And a few people have followed me simply because of that name. I'm guessing you may think there's a story behind that name, and there definitely is. Just to cut to it, I'm now 42. But by the time I was 36, I had already been married, divorced, unofficially widowed, and remarried, all by the age of 36. Along that journey, I have learned so many things. I have learned so many lessons, things that I wish I could have done differently, and just some things that I feel may help others. So in these next several videos, and you know what, this may take several sessions, I'm not really sure, but these next few videos that I'm going to post are pretty much going to be about my story. Now, there are plenty of people online that can give you all type of therapy, educational views and viewpoints. But for me personally, even when I start a new job, if someone is going to coach, supervise, or manage me, I can better respect it from someone who has been through the story and they know how to go through the work. They've been successful at it. They know what they're doing, not just someone that has an educational background. So yes, if you prefer to go the educational way, that's perfectly fine. I don't come to you from a place of education. I'm coming to you from a place of revelation. And the only way to start is from the beginning. So here we go. I want to say, as far back as I can remember, my mother's probably going to watch this video, so no shade to you, Mom, but I'm just telling the truth. I have to get the story out. So when I was little, my mother raised me in a church. I was the only child until I was about 12. But before that time, my mother was really heavy into the church. Of course, you guys know, if you follow me, I'm originally from Chicago. We went to Monument of Faith, Pastor R.D. Hinton. That was my church as far as I can remember. And honestly, when I was a kid, I really did not, I'm not gonna say I didn't care about what was going on with the church, but honestly, it just was not my focus. Like, I knew my mother would talk about things of God and what God's laws were and how he preferred us to live and, you know, saving your virginity and all that. But it was like, as a kid, it really did not matter to me at that time because I had not really experienced it. It's almost like, you know, sometimes people get upset about people being an atheist and things like that. And I think that we have to really consider, unless you really experience God in your life for yourself, it's really going to be hard for someone to convince you of something that they cannot see. Because even though we cannot physically see God, those who believe God because of the things that they've experienced, the things that they felt. So that is your own personal, you know, belief system, decisions and things like that. So we just have to give people grace either way. But anyway, my mother always taught me that, you know, you're not supposed to be anyone's girlfriend. You're to be a wife. That's the way God wanted us to be. You know, you save yourself into marriage. And honestly, all of that sounds good. But when you're dealing with peer pressure and being a girl, you're thinking about, you know, when other girls are getting attention. And for me, I'm 5'10". So with me being tall, I always looked older, which was kind of like an insecurity to me because I felt like, man, I'm so much taller than all the girls. Dang, they're taller than all the boys. So there was definitely some insecurities. And honestly, it even stuck with me as an adult. I even sometimes still have insecurities about that, which kind of paved the way for how I kind of moved when it went to relationships. But I'll get into that a little later. But she always taught me that you're to be a wife. And so my mindset, even as a young girl, was always thinking about being a wife, being, you know, having a husband, having a family. My mother, she did work, but you know, sometimes change things happened with her job and she became a homemaker. So in my mind, it was, you know, you be a wife, the man is the head of the household, you know, just different things like that. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind, but also, you know, just being a young girl dealing with puberty, you start thinking about boys and wanting to get their attention. So through, I guess, adolescence, 12 years old to about maybe 15 or 16, I kind of had like little high school boyfriends. It was nothing serious, but just something to, make me feel like I'm being cute and, keeping up with my peers and all of that. Well, when I was 16, I ended up meeting who is now my ex-husband. Met him through a friend. When I met him, I was tired of dating. At 16, I was tired of dating. So when I met him, he was in the church. And I'm going to tell you something. When you're raised in the church, that, oh, he's a Christian, he goes to church, that stuff will mess you up. It will trick you up into thinking, oh, he's a man of God. He's a good man. I don't think anybody's bad, but people definitely have their ways. I'll say that. So when I met him, I was at the place in my life where I was just ready to settle down. Like, I'm tired of dating. I'm tired of having boyfriends. I just want to have someone that wants the same thing that I want. And when I met him, that is how he presented himself. He presented himself as, a drummer in the church. Everybody in his family goes to church. And it was just like, oh, he wants the same thing. He wants to be married. And guess what? We got married. We did. We got married 2 weeks after I turned 18. We did not tell anybody. We went to City Hall, and then we went to just like a little motel. And I'm going to tell you something. At 18, that was the best day. That was like, oh my God, I'm grown. I have my husband. Nobody can tell me what to do. My home life was not the best. I really did not get along with my stepfather. So that could have been the reason for me wanting to just escape and wanting to have my own life. But at that age, it was so exciting. I'm like, oh yes, I'm following God. It's all up from here. Okay. All right. So got married at 18, got married in August, right? 3 months later, found out I was pregnant. Mind you, I had just went to prom in June, turned 18 in August. By October, I was pregnant with my first child. I did not know what I was doing. And honestly, I wasn't even ready to be a mother. But at the time, my husband at that time was like, oh, I want to have a baby, blah, blah, blah. Okay, got pregnant. Did not know what I was headed for. Did not know. So if you're out there and you're thinking, I just want a baby, I want someone to love. Children are a beautiful blessing, beautiful. But make sure you're ready. Make sure you're financially ready. Make sure you're emotionally ready. Make sure you're ready in the event that you end up having to take care of that baby on your own. I'm not saying that's everybody's story, but you have to consider certain things. But don't just want to have a baby because you want somebody to love and feel love, because there's a greater responsibility that comes with raising children in so many ways. Well, let's just say I got pregnant. Now, before me and my ex-husband got married, I will say this. There were some things that I had questions about, but because we were so young, and I was so naive. I just believed anything that somebody told me because I just felt like, why would people lie? I went to private school, raised in the church. This person was a churchgoer as well. So it's like, why would somebody lie about who they are? I mean, if they tell me they're at a basketball game, they're at a basketball game. There was no need to question it. There was no need to even consider. But there were some things that happened before the marriage that I kind of was like, okay, well, once we get married, we know this is going to be it. There was no proposal. There was no special event plan to propose. It was kind of like, my mother was really strict when it came to boys. His mother was really strict when it came to us being alone. So it's like, okay, well, no one will let us be alone unless we're married. So we're just going to get married. And that's what we did. And for the first couple of weeks, it was fun. It was exciting. We ended up moving in together. Fun fact, we did not live together when we first got married. We just kind of got married just to kind of get out of the idea of people saying that we can't do this or that because we're not married and we're Christians, whatever. So when we finally ended up moving in together, we kind of stayed with his grandfather shared a room, a little twin size bed, y'all. I'm telling you, best times at that age. I thought this was so fun. I was staying with my boyfriend or my husband. Still had to get used to saying husband. Nobody can tell me what to do. I'm cooking tacos. We're having burgers. We're having fun game night. Just innocent, right? Like I said, got pregnant. I'm going to say I had to be maybe 6 months pregnant. And this is where everything started to turn. I got a phone call. One of my friends called me and she was like, hey, let's come outside. We want to see you. And I'm like, no, I'm sitting at home with my man. I'm chilling. I'm not really in the mood to come in. They're like, girl, come outside, please. Come outside. And I'm like, okay. So I get outside. We're hanging out. And one of my friends tell me, oh, your husband tried to talk to me. And I'm like, what you mean? I'm like, girl, you don't have to lie. If you want me to hang out, you don't have to tell me, you have to make up stories. Just tell me, that you want to hang out. And she's like, no, your husband tried to talk to me. Y'all, I'm 18 years old, pregnant, okay? I'm not living in my mother's house anymore. I can't go home. Did not have a good relationship with my stepfather. And honestly, at that time, I really didn't have a good relationship with my mother. So I'm like, this isn't true. So I call my ex-husband. I say, so-and-so said you tried to talk to her. Is that true? And he says, well, if that's what she told you, then yeah. I was like, huh? What? Y'all, I could not control my bodily functions. Like I was peeing, throwing up, and crying at the same time. 6 months pregnant. Like my body went into total shock. It hit me out of nowhere. Heartbreak is one of the worst things I can ever experience, that I have ever experienced in my life, okay? To me. People, there are other things at that time in my life. That was one of the worst things that ever happened to me. And when he told me that, I just was like, what do you mean? Because by this time, I don't remember if I was because I did go to hair school for a little while, but I don't remember if I was in school at that time. I think by the time I had got to 6 months, I had to stop going to school because we started to get into chemicals and things like that. So y'all, I just didn't have anywhere to go. I went at home. I was so upset. I packed up all of my things and I stayed with his mother. Yeah, I stayed with his mother. Thankfully, she knew how to separate the two. I know there are some parents that will take their children's side no matter what, but I believe that she was just a just woman and wanted to help. Plus, I was pregnant. So I stayed there for 2 weeks, y'all. Didn't know what I was going to do. I would talk to my mom. I would go there sometime and, give food and things like that. But y'all, I felt so low. I graduated high school with honors. My plan was to go to college, start my career, things like that. But I fell in love. And I let love lead the way. And I went from graduating high school with honors, going to prom, to getting married 2 weeks after 18, getting pregnant, and already being cheated on within 1 year. No job, nowhere to go. So I started to pray. I just prayed, like, God, what do I do? What do I do? And from that point on, I went through a series of learning how to pray, learning how to fast, learning how to hear from God. Y'all, these stories are so long. I know that I'm not going to get through these all in one video, but I do want to let you, kind of understand what is going to start happening. I am going to share my story, and it is going to take some time. So if you're interested, I definitely invite you to come pull up a seat because it's very interesting. And I feel like you can pull some things from this because I was married to that man for 8.5 years, okay? The things that I had learned spiritually, the things I had learned about being a wife, being a single mother, navigating life, having to start all over again. There's a lot that I want to share with you because I feel like somebody may be able to hear this and take from it, learn from it, be encouraged, because it's not all bad. The title is The Happily Married. So that means there is a happy ending, right? So let's get back to the story. So I go to church. I'm praying, I'm fasting. And honestly, remember I told you, when I was younger, my mother would take me to church. I had no concept about prayer, hearing from God, what that even felt like, what that looked like. But I'll tell you something, when you're going through a storm, when you're going through a tragedy, hurt, you're going to find a way to pray. You're going to find a way to look to somebody for help. I wasn't in a position to go to my mother for help. I wasn't in a position to go to my father for help. My friends were all young. There was no one else. And the thing about it is, God honestly was just enough. But I also found out in that time how God dealt with me. Now, different people have different ways in which God talks to them, and God gives them messages. For me, I was a dreamer. And I know people are like, oh, people have dreams all the time. That's true. But my dreams started to come true. And I realized when I was a younger child, I would have like little small dreams about things that would come true. And I would even hear stories from my mother like, oh, well, you said this to a family member and, this happened. So I'm like, okay, I started to pay attention to my dreams. Now, I'm not telling you guys, if you dream that your man's cheating, he's definitely cheating. Because women, we're going to come up with a way. If we have women's intuition, we're going to dream about something and it's over with. Sometimes you can be thinking about something so hard that you will dream about it, or something that you watch. But I will say this. For everybody, you have to learn how God deals with you. If you're a Christian, whatever you believe in, because I know everybody's not a Christian, right? But I'm just telling you my story and my personal experience, right? But for me, I felt and believed that God was dealing with me through dreams. So, ended up pregnant, no job. After 2 weeks, I'm going back and forth to church. My pastor at the time says, God told her that he was going to come back. Okay, 2 weeks later, he calls me and he says, oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't ready for marriage. We were so young. I really didn't want to talk to your friend. I just did that because I didn't know how to break up with you. I just wanted you to leave and I didn't really have the heart to do it. So of course I wanted to believe that, because why? I'm 18, I'm pregnant. I'm embarrassed in front of my friends. They're all in college, living their life, getting their degrees, body still looking good. Here I am with my big belly. So of course I wasn't going to just be like, no, you're lying. I wanted to believe it, and that's what it was. So we get back together, have the baby. Could not afford where we were living. We ended up having to stay with family. Cheaper rent. I had C-section, so I couldn't walk. Okay. I started dreaming about this lady that was in love with my husband. She was like a dark-skinned lady, and I'm telling y'all, she was in love with him. And I was just like, hey, I'm not gonna say this person's name because they moved on with their life. This is years ago. I'm not bitter. I hold no anything towards them. I've forgiven them and moved on with my life. So for that sake, I will not give any names. But I said, so-and-so, I'm having a dream about you and this lady. And she's so in love with you. It was so real. And he was like, oh, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay. But y'all, the dreams kept coming. They kept coming. So I'm like, something isn't right. Something isn't right. One day, he tells me he's having a barbecue with his job, right? He's like, oh, do you want to come to the picnic? I'm like, no. I'm going to stop right here. This is a tip. This is something I've learned. If you are married and your spouse asks you to go with them somewhere, go. Go. Even if you're tired, go. Because by the time he asked me to go to this barbecue, there had been a pattern of him inviting me places, and I was always saying no. Why? I was uncomfortable with my body. I didn't have any energy. I had the baby, even though we stayed with family, so we had someone to watch the baby. But I had just created this pattern of not wanting to go. And like, okay, you could just have your time. I'll have time to myself. But I'm telling you, if your spouse asks you to go with them, find a way to go. Find the energy to go. Not because you're trying to keep them from doing anything, but that can create opportunities that may not have presented themselves had you been in the picture. So definitely go, please. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to go. So the day of, I said, something told me, tell him that you want to go with him to the barbecue. So I'm like, I want to go to the barbecue. And he's like, no, you can't go. You already said you wasn't going to go. So no, you're not going. And that raised it like, wait a minute. Why would you be so aggressive? If it's just a barbecue, what's the issue? So that was suspicious to me. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna sit back. At the time, we did not have cell phones like they are now. We had like, what was it, like pay as you go, $30 for like an hour. So we had like a little cell phone, but it was nothing that you could sit on the phone and talk all the time. So he decided he was not gonna take the cell phone. Like, I'm gonna leave the cell phone here with you in case of an emergency. Okay. So the day goes on. I'm home with the baby, with family. I get a call from a 1-800 number. And I'm like, 1-800? Who's calling me from a 1-800 number? I answered the phone. It's my ex-husband. I didn't say anything. I'm like, hello? He like, hey, baby. I'm like, hey. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, nothing. What's going on with you? He like, nothing. I'm at my friend's house. We watching Blade 2. Y'all, that's how long ago. This had to be like 2002. I'm like, Blade 2? I'm like, oh, okay. And back then, I don't know if you guys are old enough, but there was this thing called, if you had the number, you can get the address, right? So I'm just listening. I'm like, well, if you're enjoying yourself, have a good time. I'll see you later. Click. As soon as he hang up, I dial the number that you can call to get the address. I checked the number. He at the Courtyard Marriott. Oh, okay. What's the address? So I asked my auntie, I need to see your car right now. Don't ask me no question. It's an emergency. Y'all, when I tell y'all I flew, it was like 40 minutes away. I flew over there. I get to the front desk. Yes, so-and-so is invited, is waiting for me. They's like, well, we don't have you on the list. I'm like, oh no, they know I'm on the way. Can you just, let me up? So they're like, well, they have to come down and get you. I'm like, okay. So they call the room. No answer. I sat 20, 30 minutes. He never came down. Never heard anything. They called 3 times. Did not answer. Okay. So I go home. I says nothing. He comes home. I know you caught me, but let me explain. What? My friend was having a birthday party and I had to get a room. They had strippers. I didn't want to tell you because I knew that you wouldn't approve, but I was the only one old enough to get the room, so I put the room in my name. You already know. I believed him because why would you lie? Why would anybody lie? I wanted to believe him, right? Okay, fine. I let it go. Moved on. Continue with the baby. Then, months later, I get up. I hear God tell me, go on a fast. Out of nowhere, I'm like, go on a fast? I'm like, okay. I go on a fast. The next day, my ex-husband says, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. Now, y'all, this had to be... this is all within 1 year's time because we were still living with family. He tells me, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not happy. I'm moving out. Do you know this man left and lived with another woman? A random woman that he met on the street. I was not working. He was the only one taking care of the bills. I just had the baby. I couldn't work. So I'm like, what do you mean? Y'all, stomach hurt again. Sick. And I'm like, what do you mean? He like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I said, okay, God, you told me to go on a fast because you already knew what was going to happen. You already knew. So I said, okay, I let him go. Went on the fast. I did not know how long I was going to be on this fast. I had no idea. I stayed in my room. Y'all, when I tell you, I literally read the Bible, watched my gospel programs. I didn't talk about the situation. I didn't even tell the people that we were living with the situation, even though in my mind, I thought they didn't recognize what was happening, but they knew. And sometimes that's how delusional we can be. We think that we are saving face and we're hiding something from people, but they know what's going on. They can tell. You can pretend that you're happy all you want, but people are going to know the truth. So this went on for a couple of days. And then all of a sudden, God had me to study the Battle of Jericho. And if you know the story of the Battle of Jericho, God had the people to march around the town, and the walls fell down that they needed to conquer. So I went on a fast, exactly the same timeline. On that last day of my fast, who calls me? I'm ready to come home. I shouldn't have did this. I shouldn't have did that. Guess what I did? Let him come back. Because of course he was sorry. Of course he wanted to work on the marriage. I was not about to be a single mother at 19 and embarrass myself. So of course we got back together because I wanted to work on my marriage, because I believed as a Christian, you supposed to work things out with your husband. This was the man that God had for me. This was the man that I had confirmation was my husband, right? How many times have you had confirmation that this person is your man, this person is your woman? And I'm not just going to gear this whole video towards women in case there are men watching. I don't want you to think this is like a man bashing video, because it's not, because there are great men out here, right? And all women are not good. All men are not good. All men are not bad. All women are not bad. But I believed that I had got confirmation that this man was my husband. We were in church. We had kids together. We did things the right way as far as waiting for children. Did we have sex before marriage? Yes, we did. Do I think that caused problems? No, I do not. But I do believe that when you are intimate with someone, it does create in your mind deeper feelings that are really there, because a lot of that stuff is surface. If you take sex out of the equation, are we allowed to have sex on YouTube? If you take intimacy out of the relationship, a lot of times your feelings are not going to be as developed because you're spending time getting to know that person, right? So anyway, of course I worked it out. We got back together. And one thing about my ex, he's very convincing. You have people that, I'm not going to say they're con artists. This goes beyond con artists, because you can sit here and literally in your mind believe the things that you're telling. Like, I honestly believe that he wanted to do right, but it did not manifest in real life. Like in his mind, in those moments, he wanted to do right, but it did not happen. But anyway, we get back together. By this time, I'm like, Lord, I'm thanking God, like, oh, God, you knew what's going to happen. You sent me on this fast, because if you did not prepare me, I wouldn't have been able to handle this. I would have been sick. How was I going to face my family? I have this child. Now, even though ultimately the marriage went left, I still believe that God had kept me during that time. And I'm going to tell you what happened. During that marriage, what I learned was how to hear from God, how to fast, how to pray. Because again, as a child, even though my mother talked to me about God, I did not have my own relationship. And I feel like the only way for you to have a relationship with someone is to spend time with them, get to know them. You have to go through things sometimes. Like even now I tell my husband, when we have hard times, when we're able to kind of go through and we have to figure things out together and overcome obstacles, it lets us know the strength of our relationship. Because if you're with somebody and everything that you do is always a good time, that doesn't necessarily show you the strength of your relationship. Sometimes you have to get into those hard spots to really test how strong the relationship is. And if you can still manage to go through together and come out of those things together, then that says something about your relationship, right? Okay, so we get back that was talking about my now husband, just in case anybody got confused. Back to the ex. So he comes back. We like, okay. I know I've been out there. It's nothing out there but trouble. I want my family. I'm going to do right. Okay. Y'all, I kept dreaming he was cheating. I kept dreaming. But in my heart, I'm like, okay, God, now, I've always told that dreams can be past, present, and future. But I would have specific details about things, where to find them, where to look. And I was still, it was like in my mind, I still was not convinced that, okay, God, are you telling me to leave him? Or are you telling me that these are the things that I need to pray against? And I think that is a problem that we have. Well, I'm going to say I have, because I don't want to put a label on anyone else. For me, with my Christian walk in the beginning, I was always torn between, is this God telling me to leave my husband? Or is this God telling me to pray for my husband? Because I would see women that would say, oh, they, went through this and that with their husband, and God completely changed their life, and God completely did a 180 and changed them around. I'm like, well, God, you can do the same thing for us, right? Why should I have to start over with someone else? We didn't have any children with anyone else. We had our first child together. I fit in his family well. He fit in my family well. Like, why would you not work this out, right? And then what the women in church will say, if he's not beating you, then you can stay with him. He's paying your bills. You have a car. You have a roof over your head. You can work through this. And the crazy part about it was, deep in my heart, I didn't want to. And I kind of felt like, but man, now I have to. I married him, so I'm stuck. We have kids. I'm stuck. What am I going to do? Like, I just can't walk away and start all over again. So it was like, I have to deal with it. So what did I do? I stayed in the marriage. Y'all, worst thing. The worst thing you can do is stay in a situation out of fear. And I don't know if I was afraid of being embarrassed, afraid of being out of God's will, afraid of, being on my own because I couldn't go back home. It was like, what am I going to do? And for parents, I will say this. If you're in a church and your children are, don't try to force your beliefs and your ways and things on them. Teach them about God, teach them whatever message you want them to teach, but also allow them to live their lives, because we can drill and put things in our children's heads sometimes, and you think you're doing the right thing, but sometimes you can be creating something that is going to negatively affect them later. Like, we do have to give our children instruction and guidance, but you can't drill it. You can't be unrealistic to the things that are happening in the natural because you're so spiritually minded, because that's not reality for a young child. It's just not. So we got back together. By this time, we ended up moving into our own apartment. This was like our real first apartment on our own. We've been together for a couple of months. Things have been doing good. Moved out, we got furniture, everything seemed like it was God's will. We got the apartment right. Everybody blessed us with, like, his mother blessed us with a bedroom set, a living room set. My mother gave us a dining set. My auntie gave my daughter a bedroom set. We had living near downtown Chicago skyline. Like, y'all, we thinking we're grown. I think we were maybe 20 or 21 at the time. Thinking we are grown. I'm the housewife. I'm cooking. This is actually how I started cooking, because when we got married and I was a housewife, I was determined not to be a meatloaf Monday, fried chicken Thursday wife. I'm like, I'm going to learn how to cook. My auntie was a chef. She gave me a Betty Crocker cookbook. I'm going to start looking in this book and I'm going to start cooking. So that is how I actually learned how to cook. Being a housewife and wanting to be, I want to do something different. Things going good. The dream started coming again. I'm like, oh God, no, please, God, I can't deal with another cheater. I can't deal with more infidelity. I just can't. Like, God, can't he just be right? If he could just do right, we will be okay, right? So time goes on. I get pregnant again. Now, let me back up. Before I got pregnant, we went through more episodes of his cheating, more episodes of me catching him up in lies. And then I thought it was cute to go through his phone and start calling women and telling them, don't call my husband. He a married man, blah, blah, blah. Don't call nobody's phone. Don't blame the other woman. Blame your husband. Nobody has any, those women do not have responsibility to your marriage. They do not care about your marriage. You don't know what your man is telling those women. He was telling them, she doesn't let me go anywhere. She does, making up all kind of lies. I wasn't even the one that was bringing in the money. This man created a scenario for the women to entertain him. Somebody messing with your man, let him go. Just let him go, because they think that they're getting something so great. If what they say, if they will cheat with you, they will cheat on you, period. And if he was that good of a man, why are you roaming the streets all about, messing with different women? Why would he be cheating with you? Anyway, so go through these episodes of him cheating. I'm still like, God, praying for my husband, praying and fasting. I mean, I didn't even recognize myself. I didn't even know how to dress anymore. I had gained so much weight. I had gained 80 pounds with my first daughter. 80 pounds. I was so insecure. I did not know how to dress. I kind of like just lost myself, right? I didn't even know what to do, right? I was so tired of praying and fasting that it just got to the point where I'm just like, you know what? It is what it is. I just give up. I quit. I don't want to do it anymore. God, whatever it is, y'all, I became suicidal at some points. Like, when I think about that, and I know that no one should take you to that point, but it was like, I thought I had my whole future ahead of me. Graduating honors, with my girls, we hanging out, we having our little cliques, and life was so promising. But the decision I made that one day at 16 years old to answer the phone, that's how I met my ex-husband. I was walking out the door, a friend called me, and I was like, I don't really want to talk to him because he kind of pestered. I'm like, I'm going to answer the phone because I've been skipping his calls for a long time. Platonic friend. I get on the phone. He says, I want you to meet my friend. Y'all, ooh, my God. One decision, one simple decision changed my life over the next 10 years, just answering that call. So anyway, went through a season of being suicidal and just depressed, right? I wasn't working. I was disgusted with myself. I started doing hair because remember, I went to hair school when I was pregnant. I did not finish because we started going through chemicals and the money just wasn't there. So to make up a little money on the side, I started doing hair. I started babysitting at the house while my ex was working because I still wanted to have some income. I was still trying to do what I could to pull my weight. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and be like, oh, I'm so perfect, this and that, because I'm still a young girl. But I still was trying to pull my weight. So time goes on. Get pregnant again. But the funny thing is, before I had gotten pregnant, I had already made up in my mind, you know what? This is it. I'm done with this. I want no parts of this marriage anymore. I don't care if I'm in God's will or not. All I know is I want out of this marriage. Y'all, I'm gonna have to do another video, but for a while, I thought I had something called PCOS, right? Polycystic ovarian syndrome. So it was really hard for me to get pregnant. So I never really was cautious or worried about it. Right before I got pregnant with my second daughter, I said, I am leaving. I have had enough. One day, I noticed my cycle hadn't come, which was not, out of the ordinary. So I take a test. Before I could put the cap on the test, it was positive. I'm like, oh my God, no. I'm like, well, God must be telling me to stay. God must be telling me it's not time to leave. So I took that as a sign that, you know what? Stay in your marriage. God's going to work this out. You have these kids. And at this point, it was about preserving the family. And I know a lot of people are in their marriage because, why? Staying because of the kids. And I totally get that. And I would not talk anyone out of that if that's what you're doing. But I would never do that again. Because kids can see and they remember things, right? We think that, like I said, you think that you're hiding and you're saving face, but people are not stupid. Even the children. Like, what type of example are we setting for children to know what love looks like? To know what being strong and setting up for yourself looks like? To have self-respect. You have somebody that's talking to you disrespectful. They seeing you constantly crying. They seeing that, you know, you're not at your best self because you're depressed. You're going through the motions. You're just trying to survive so that you can maintain a house for your children. And that's not really ideal, right? Especially not in this time, because we live in a world now where people feel like there is no more hope for love. There's pee in the pool. The dating pool has pee in it. It probably does, but guess what? If the dating pool has pee in it, you get out of the pool and go get in the ocean. Get out of the pool. The pool is so small, it's limiting. When you go into an ocean, you are open to a whole new level of possibilities and options, right? Get out of your norm. Get out of what you're used to. Try something else. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to, you know, not know what's going to happen, or not know what's to come. But you do know that where you are in that moment is not where you want to be. And that's enough for you to be motivated in itself. But anyway, I thought, you know, okay, I'm pregnant. I have to have, you know, I have to stay with my family. I was not working. What was I about to go with 2 children? So I stayed, try to work it out. The dream started coming again. I'm like, God, please. God, I can't take any more, y'all. It was to the point where anytime my ex got a new job mean a new woman was finna come into the picture. And it was like, I was terrified, like, oh my God, he has a new job. Who was he about to mess with? I mean, y'all, it was so bad. It is so bad. If you're in a relationship and you're dealing with a cheater, I pray for you. I pray that you get the strength to do what needs to be done. I'm not going to tell anybody to leave their husband or leave their wife. But what I will tell you is living and with someone who's cheating on you, you can't get relaxed in your relationship, especially if you love the person, especially if you honestly believe that this person is going to change. Sometimes you have to let people go. The one thing that I can say, and let's talk about another lesson. Number 2, if somebody cheats on you, leave the first time. Leave the first time. Because I'm going to tell you why. If you leave the first time and you make them work to get back with you, and I'm not talking about a day or 2, you make them work to get back into your life, they're going to have a different appreciation for you. But if you just let them come right back in like nothing happened because you just want the relationship so bad and you just want them home so bad and you want to forgive because they said they're sorry, you're doing yourself a big disservice. You're doing yourself a big disservice because they are not going to respect you. They are not. And guess what? They're going to do it again. Because they have not worked. They have not suffered. And I'm not saying you should make people suffer. But what I'm saying is you should make people value the presence of you being in their life. Right? Anyway, the dream started happening again. By this point, I was like, you know what? This is just not going to happen. He's never going to be faithful. So I went, and you know what? I had a friend at the time. She was working. She was like, Nessa, come on. Come with me and apply for this job. I'm like, okay, at that time you had to do applications. So if you're young and you're watching this, there was no online application. You had to physically go to the job, get a paper application, fill it out, and somehow hope that somebody sorts through your application and call you. So my friend and I went. It was on a Saturday. And I was not dressed up or anything, just unprofessional, just so unprofessional. But I didn't think I was going to get the job. I was just honestly, I was in such a depression. I was just doing it just so no one could say I was not trying. So I go to the place, meet one of the managers, and we started joking around and have a conversation. It actually was really funny how it all played out. So I applied for the job, and I didn't hear anything back for months, maybe like 2 months. By this time, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm finna get this job. I'm finna get out of here. You know, I'm getting a little bit more bold with my ex. Like, oh, I'm about to leave. You're going to be done. He's like, you're not doing this. You're not getting a job. Y'all, I believed it too. I'm like, you know what, God, I'm probably not going to get this job. I don't know what I'm going to do. One day we got into it really, really bad. And sure enough, he said it again. You're never going to get that job. Guess what happened? The phone rang in that moment. It was the job. They called me and they said, hey, you applied for this job some months ago. We lost all the applications and somehow we still had your application. Are you still interested in the position? I'm like, yes, absolutely. Y'all cannot tell me that was not God. All of the applications were lost. Except mine. I had no experience other than working at a grocery store when I was in high school. It was a sales job working at the airport. So I'm like, ooh, I'm excited. I got my little job. Y'all, I did not know if I was going to be good at sales, if that was my thing or what. But all I knew is I had these 2 kids and I had to get the hell out of this relationship, right? I get my job, y'all. The job was paying $9 an hour. I don't know how I was planning to move off $9 an hour, but there was a commission aspect. So I'm like, okay. Start my job, starting to feel a little bit better about myself, starting to get around other people. My ex did not know. I started saving money. Like I'm getting my own place. I did not tell him. So one day, maybe like 8 months later, I tell him, we got into it again. He was messing around again. And I'm like, you know what? I'm leaving. I got a place. He like, you're not going anywhere. I'm like, oh, yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am. I kept saving my money, bought my first car on my own. It was a Toyota Camry. I remember it was a 1993 Toyota Camry. I was so proud of myself. I went and got my own apartment. It was kind of like further off in a new area that nobody had been to. So I'm thinking, you know what? I am finally free. I'm doing my thing, me and my girls. But guess what, y'all? When I moved into my apartment that first night, I cried. Because I felt like I had failed my kids. Because I never wanted them to be in a home without their father. Like I didn't want to be a single mother. I mean, nobody goes into a situation saying, I want to be a single mother. But I just never imagined that for my life, right? You're growing up, you don't think that you're going to go through the type of things that you go through, especially when they're horrible, right? So I cried and I apologized to my children. Like, I'm so sorry that I made this person your father. I'm so sorry that you have to grow up in a home with a single mother. And honestly, y'all, it just took me some time to really adjust to this new life, right? I'm working out. I hadn't been working in the past. I have 2 children. I'm a single woman. In my mind, it was like exciting, but it was also very scary, right? Because now you're dealing with dating. Now you're dealing with having people around your children. Now you're dealing with paying bills on your own. And my ex wasn't the best when it came to money, but he kept the bills paid. And I will say, I was allowed to stay home with my first daughter for 3 years and for my second daughter for almost 1 year. So I will give him credit for that. But this new world was so new for me. And I know, starting over can be so scary, right? You have people that are starting over, single parent, single mother, single father, heartbroken, hurt, crushed. You meet somebody, you're in love. And when they say it's a thin line between love and hate, that is so true. But you know what though? I have to wonder, when you say it's a thin line between love and hate, how deep was that love? How real was the love that a person could just turn on you in that instant? A person could just hurt you. Like, I have a big thing for someone to tell me, I love you, I want to marry you, and you're cheating, you're lying to someone's face. You know that you're not serious. You know that you're not real. Like, you're playing with people's emotions. That show called Snapped. I totally understand how somebody could snap, because the heart can only take so much. If it was not for God, y'all, I would not be here. I would not be here today. Or I wouldn't even be in my right mind. I'll say that. And people will say, well, how can you say God kept you and God was there for you, but you kept getting cheated on? Because sometimes we have to go through things. We have to go through lessons. We have to go through things that teach us. And it's not because God wants us to go through these things. It's the choices that we're making. Because, of course, God wants us to have a good life. But I do feel like sometimes we have to learn some lessons. There are just some things that I won't say God put you through, but God will allow so that he can get you to the place that he needs you to go through. I honestly can't say, if I did not go through the things that I went through with my ex, that I would have been able to experience God to the level that I experienced. And my faith wouldn't have grown to the place that it have grown to had I not gone through with my ex, right? So I get into my first apartment. Y'all, I'm thinking like, okay, it's it. This is us. I'm working my little job, honey. I'm starting to meet men. I'm dating, getting my little swag. I'm like, okay, I still got it going on with 2 kids. Okay. No. What happened? My ex called me. I got to move out the apartment. I need to come stay with you and the girls. Lord have mercy. Part of me was like, you know what? I do need help with these bills. Maybe he learned his lesson. Maybe he gonna do right. Let him come back. Let him come back. And here's the thing. Even though I was saying, yes, we're working on our marriage, we're going to church, we're doing this, we're doing that, in my heart, deep down in my heart, I was scared as hell. I was terrified. Because I did not want to go through another heartbreak. I did not want to go through what I just fought like hell to get out of. Saving a couple of $1,000s to move when I've never had my own place with 2 kids. It took a lot to do that. And for people that want to leave relationships and you're scared of the unknown, and people that can't understand that, I understand. Because it's so scary. It is. But I'm telling you, you will be all right. It's going to be rough. But no one should be in a marriage where you're constantly feeling being disrespected. You're feeling unloved. You're feeling just insecure. Because why would you want to tie yourself to something like that for life? But we do it out of fear. We do it because we don't believe in ourselves, right? And another thing that I've learned, don't be afraid to lose people. You can't. Especially not someone who's mistreating you. Because why would you be afraid to lose trauma, to lose hurt? Because you know why? Those little moments of when you break up with somebody, you think about, oh, we went to this restaurant. We went on this vacation. I remember this was our song. And that's cute and sweet. But if it was all that, how did you get to that place of separation? How did you get to that point of heartbreak? This same person that you're missing and crying over because you missed the good times took you through hell. But Y'all like the same restaurant. Y'all like the same type of food. Y'all like the same music. We have so much in common. At that age, y'all, it was little things like, I would think about with my ex, like, oh my God, we used to like the same toppings on our pizza. We like the same type of movies. But that's how much experience I did not have in relationships that I valued those things just because I did not know any better. I was never taught what to look for in a relationship. I did not have that example growing up. And that's just the reality. I could not stand my stepfather. I couldn't stand my mother, honestly. And so I didn't look up to their relationship as like, oh, I value this. I got a lot of stuff from TV. Other things that I see, things that I thought in my mind. So when I got into my relationship, I just knew I wanted to follow God and be right and be married because that's what I was taught. That's how I was raised. So I stayed in this cycle of taking my husband back. We get back together. And I was happy to have the help in the beginning, but I felt like somebody was invading my space, right? He was invading my peace. And it went through another cycle of cheating, going through your phone. But by this time, y'all, it got deep because he started messing with this older woman. This older woman would later end up pregnant. I said ended up pregnant. Pregnant with a baby. We're married. We have 2 children. We were in our 20s. She was like 40, almost 40. But I'm skipping ahead, but I'm just letting you know. Y'all think y'all heard? No, y'all have not heard it. Y'all have not heard it. Okay, this 8.5 years. Okay, he comes back, and again, hearing about the cheating, hearing about the situation. I remember one day he asked me to go out with him and his friends. But I tell you, go out with your spouse. When they ask you to go out. Me, no, I don't want to go. You can go hang out. Okay. He goes out that day, and in the middle of the night, he calls me. He like, babe, I got to come home and get your car key. I locked my keys in the car, and I need to get the car. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm thinking he's leaving the club or whatever, him and his friends. He comes home, get the car keys. He goes back. He calls me. He says, babe, you ain't gonna believe it. What? I get back to the car, and they towed the car. I'm like, what? He like, yeah, I'm on my way. By this time, y'all, we living check to check. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking this man coming in, we're going to have help. But I'm going to tell you something about help. Help also have bills. So you think I'm going to put up with him because he bringing an extra $2,000 a month in the house and I need help. But you don't realize their living expenses, their mistakes, their things that they're doing may cost $1,800 a month. So you're going through all that for an extra $200 a month because you need help. So he calls and he says, I'm about to go get my check because at that time he had to wait till midnight. I'm finna cash my check and then I'm going to go get the car. Okay, fine. This was on a Saturday. I had to go to work the next day, so he had to take my car. So he gone all night in the morning, going all the way to get the car, whatever. The man calls me again. Babe, what? You ain't gonna believe what happened. What happened? I'm in the cab. I just cashed my check and I lose the rest of my money. I'm like, what? What you mean? I don't know. I'm tired. I had my money in my wallet and I took the money out for the toll. I put the rest in my pocket and it must have fell out of my pocket. Y'all, I thought I was, this can't be real. This can't be real. And all of y'all think, you dumb, you dumb. How could you? Again, y'all, I'm young and lived a sheltered life, okay? I didn't even know about certain, I was in private school until 6th grade. So yes, I was being dumb. And I can laugh about it now, but, whoo. So I'm like, okay, I have to go to work. We just gonna have to figure this out. Rent is due. Y'all, I'm at work. I'm like, God, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna pay rent? I'm calculating what my check gonna be. Man, I was making $9 an hour at the time, but I was getting commission. So it did start to add up where I was able to take care of myself. So he had my car. I don't remember why he had my car that day, but he dropped me off to work that day. He played the drums at the church. He would get $100 every Sunday. So I'm like, okay, we'll at least have this $100 to put towards the rent, right? Okay, I'm calculating. Okay, we could probably figure this out. We can probably get this figured out. So he picks me up from work. We in the car. We're on the way home. And I'm like, so-and-so, I'm calculating this and that, and we can still try to figure it out. We can get the rent paid. So he says, look at this. Look. He shows me his hand. I'm like, what's that? He like, oh, I went and got my jewelry at the pawn shop. Y'all, mind you, by this time, we're almost at home. We were just going to McDonald's to get something real quick and cheap for dinner because I just wasn't in the mindset of cooking. We had been running around. He was running around all night. So he showed me his wrist in the driveway. So I'm like, wait, what are you saying? He was like, well, you know, I had that jewelry that I had on layaway, and this was my last day to get it. So I said, well, how did you get money to get your jewelry just off your check? He's like, you know, I got that money from the church today. So I took my $100. I figured I might as well get my jewelry at the pawn shop. I said, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You get the car towed, you lose your check, and then you proceed to treat yourself to jewelry? Y'all, I started screaming, I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. You gotta go. Y'all, that man was driving me nuts, okay? I was like, you gotta go today. When I tell you I put that sucker out that day, out. I was in disbelief. But I'm gonna tell you what happened next on the next video. Keep watching.